Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, Happy Halloween! We're talking spooky Nintendo levels. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. Mark, how is it going?
It's going so good, which you can probably guess, because I, of course, am dressed up like the Bride of Frankenstein. Patrick is a scary Dracula.
That's right. I was trying to go as Bride of Scary Dracula, but this is an easier costume for me. The cape's a little bit longer.
Yeah, the cape's a little bit longer. You know, it's getting a little chillier in LA.
Yeah, yes, if we are able to stay away from the fires.
Right.
Is that too much of a bummer? Is this not how the show should start?
I mean, you know, it's the reality of LA.
It is, in fact, the reality of LA. We're fine. Mark and I are safe, at least as we're recording this on Monday night. Who knows? There could be some Santa Ana winds that bring some embers over into East LA, and we could be burned down at this point.
But of course, because it is Monday night, it's a little bit weird that I'm dressed as the Bride of Frankenstein,
right?
And Patrick is a spooky Dracula. But that's the kind of dedication we have for the show.
Wait, I'm sorry. Were you saying that was Halloween related? That doesn't make any sense to me. It's Halloween. I was about to blow past all of our other stuff. Let's do things quickly. Sonic Forces, my copy of it. You want to borrow it? You can.
It's the spookiest borrowing program. Are we doing this for each of the?
Yes, great. Spookiest borrowing program. You can email us a spooky email at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com.
Ooh.
I send it to you. You play it for as long as you want. You send it back. It costs you nothing, and it's spooky. Also, you can send us your spooky Mario Maker 2 levels.
Ooh.
Email or Twitter. You can Twitter us at Nincart Society.
I like how your ooh is becoming less spooky and more just like icky. You're like, ugh.
Yeah, well, fear and disgust, they're like related.
They're holding
reactions.
hands.
That's
for
right.
Sure.
What is that? The Bill Hader character and the Mindy Kaling character from Inside Out? We're doing a special episode.
Right. This one, not so spooky.
This one can't be spooky. I guess it could be spooky, but
it's not.
But it's, oh, jeez. We are going to determine what are the best pieces of Nintendo music. When we're going to do a whole bracket style thing, it's going to be great. But here's the complication: we cannot nominate pieces of music for this competition. You need to do that.
And I hear what you're saying. Yes, you can nominate spooky music if you want.
Ooh. But we will not have. We may have a spooky bracket, but we will not have a spooky bracket. But we may, if we have enough spooky entrants. Look, this is what happens in this tournament will be directed by us, but it is only happening because of your suggestions. So email those to us, tweet them at us, and we need them before
November 22nd.
That's right. So we can get this all done for you. Thank you to everyone who has sent in a piece of music already. We love it. All right, Mark, are you ready to get into the subject at hand? We can talk about some spooky levels with Emily Rose Jacobson.
Yes, I want to.
I'm the one that's dressed up as the spooky Dracula. All right, Mark, let's get to it. We are joined today by actor, writer, gamer, Emily Rose Jacobson.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. It's so good to be here.
It's so great to have you here. We have serious business to attend to today.
Spooky business to attend to today.
Seriously spooky business. It's Halloween. We've arrived.
Mm-hmm.
It's the end of October. Who can believe it?
We did it.
I want it to last forever. Halloween's like my favorite holiday. I love October.
Yeah.
Let me enjoy the spooky before the Christmas, please.
Do you ever? So is Halloween like a hard cutoff for you? Of like, now we're done with spooky.
Yes, and I start Halloween in September. Okay. So for me, I am like those Christmas people who start Christmas in November.
Right.
But I start Halloween in September.
It's because you need a lot of time, right? There's like a mood to be set.
Exactly. And as soon as Halloween, man, November 1st, everyone's like, it's Christmas. Like, it's such a hard, like, shift. I love fall. Let me enjoy. Technically, I don't think even winter technically starts until a few days before Christmas, usually.
Yeah, that's right.
So let me just enjoy fall, please.
Please, we need fall.
I love fall.
But we are going to be talking today about the spookiest, maybe not spookiest. We're going to be talking about spooky levels or areas.
Spooky to us.
Spooky to us.
Yes.
Yes. This is going to be a very personal. And so, Emily, you had mentioned before we started recording that you don't necessarily care for, or like you are easily spooked.
I am so easily scared, and it's really hard because there's certain horror video games whose plots I really like.
Yes.
And it's so hard. I have to essentially, if I'm going to like Resident Evil 7, I was really, really hooked when that game first came out, but I have to play it in the daytime with other music playing and usually another person next to me, so I'm not alone in this journey. Or what I'll do is, this is so bad, I'll watch a playthrough of it on YouTube, and so I can expect the scares. That way I can go a little further. But yeah, it's. I wish I had a better fear level or a fear gate.
Yeah, like a higher tolerance for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that way too. Like as I get older, I think it has to do with getting older. The less I'm like, yeah, I want to go to a movie and be scared. Like I don't want that experience anymore. Mark, do you relate to this at all? Or are you placating me?
No, not at all. I went to see It Chapter 2 was probably like the most like scary movie I saw, and I have gotten to the same point as you, Patrick. So I spent the majority of the movie with like my hands over my ears.
Same.
So that way,
I was like this.
So that way it wouldn't be loud. But I tried to do it like discreetly because I was with my husband. I tried to do it discreetly so like I didn't embarrass him.
Yeah.
So I'm like, like casually putting my hoodie up over my head and like casually putting my hand in my over my ear.
Right, just so no one knows. It's an
Right.
embarrassing fear that you have.
Exactly.
Yeah, I avoid that by just not going to. And then
That's smart.
Yeah, and my friends are like, "Hey, you should see this movie. You would really like it." I'm like, "Is it scary?"
Yep.
I'm probably not going. But we got some spooky levels. So we each brought a couple, and then Emily's got a game that she wants to share with us. I'm so excited to hear about. Who would like to go first in sharing a spooky level from a game?
Well, I feel like up front, I should say that a lot of these spooky levels are. Do you know that there's like a website, I think, where if you're like, is YouTube down for everyone or is it just me?
Yes.
Right? I feel like this is like spooky for everyone or just me. And I feel like a lot of these answers are going to be just me.
Wow, we need that website.
Yes.
Spooky for
everyone
everyone?
or just me. .org.
Because, okay, I'll start.
Okay, all right.
So the first one I have is from Super Mario Brothers 3.
Oh.
Okay.
And it's World 5. It's the tower level that takes you that's like the in-between from the ground level to the sky, like cloud part of World 5. And ever since I was a kid, I found something like disturbing and off about this level.
Yes.
And I was watching a run-through of it to be like, what exactly about this level was it that I found to be spooky? And I will tell you, there's one section when you're climbing up where, you know how like Super Mario Brothers 3 has a lot of parts and levels where they're like just transitions, like nothing's going on. It's just like you're going from one pipe to the other and it's like one short room.
Yeah.
There's one of those in this tower, and hanging from the ceiling are just these
They're like
light
globes.
fixture,
Yeah.
like globes. And I think that's the only place in Super Mario Brothers 3 that those globes are used. But as a kid, I always thought they were nooses.
Oh my gosh.
That is dark.
That's ooh, Mario, no.
Mario, don't hang yourself.
Yeah.
So that's a very scary like aspect of that level. It's also the only thing that looks like that on like the world map, like as you
Right.
travel to it, because it's this like weird spirally tower, and it does serve as that transition, right, from the ground to the sky. And
it has no like end, right? Like all
Yeah.
levels in Super Mario Brothers 3
Mhm.
have the sort of thing where you run and you hit the box and you get one of the 3 cards.
Right. Or there's a boom boom boss and
Mhm.
you beat him, and that level doesn't have that.
No, this level doesn't have it. It's just a weird level, and weird is scary.
It is weird and weird is scary, but it doesn't. I'm not going to remember the name of the thing. I just tried to Google it, and it did not help. But isn't there some either mythological or religious tower that goes into the heavens that like the characters in the story go
Yes.
up the tower to try to kill God?
I don't know if they go this tower to kill God, but the Tower of Babel, right? Is that
I mean, the
what we're
Tower of
talking about?
Babel is that's what helps them like communicate, or that's what causes the breakdown in language, right?
Right, but I think they were
Mhm.
building it
Oh, maybe
to,
to fight
like,
God,
or
and then
to-
God was like, "How dare
to
you? Now
get
you
to
all speak
God or something?"
Spanish."
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think. Well, yeah. Okay, sure.
Some of you speak Spanish. Some of you speak French. Now it'll be hard for you to communicate.
Yeah.
That was God's punishment. So yeah, I live in fear of God's wrath. So that's a good pick, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you.
Emily, would you like to share a level?
Sure. My first one is the terrifying nightmare piano from Super Mario 64. Oh, my
man.
gosh. This like I played they had super so they this is how they got me to go to church was my church had like 3 Nintendo 64 stations
Yeah.
set up, and they had Mario Kart and they had Super Mario 64. And so I'd always go there to play Super Mario 64 because we didn't have a 64 growing up. And man, you get to this level and it's you enter the room, you open the room, and you
Mhm.
just see the piano there. And I've never been like, it's not only this piano has teeth and is chomping at you, it's the terrifying monstrosity noise it makes.
Yes.
It's just like people bashing keys on a keyboard and then this chomping noise at the same time.
Yeah, it's like someone threw a bunch of mousetraps into an open grand piano and just like
No, 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 no. And it's terrifying because if Mario dies, like if he gets killed by it, it keeps going. It doesn't stop. So the
Oh, yeah.
Bowser head shows up, and it just zooms in on just Mario's corpse underneath this piano that's still ravaging him and
Chomping away.
Just chomping away.
That's especially scary too because when you come into the room, it's pretending to be a chill piano.
Mhm. It's awful. It's not like it gets you when you go in there. It's
No.
as soon as you get close.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, can Mario play the piano?
Yes, is this a fun little Easter egg in this game? No, it's the Easter egg from heck.
Oh man, that whole level is good spookiness
Mhm.
because it's like the first time or like one of the most like severe times where the game takes control of the camera away from you and you can't really tell it where you want to look. Like I can picture the camera angle when you enter that room. It's so far away from the door and like sort of behind the piano. Oh man, that is good spookiness.
But like as a kid, you're like Mario, bright colors,
Yeah.
coins. There's a crazy slide level, and look at these penguins. And then it's just horror piano.
I feel like was it something about the Nintendo 64 era that like people used that to lure children to go places they didn't want to go? Because my dentist did the same thing that your church did, where they had 3 like Nintendo 64
Mhm.
stations set up with Banjo Kazooie.
Our orthodontist had this too.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dentist had that too, and it was Wave Racer and Monkey Ball. Like,
Oh boy.
or I think that might have been a GameCube. Actually, they may have upgraded to a GameCube. But oh my gosh, I don't know what it is about Nintendo and luring kids into
Yeah.
to situations.
Effective.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kids like Nintendo. So my first spooky area is the town of Zozo from Final Fantasy VI/Final Fantasy III. So have you guys played this Final Fantasy game?
I have. I don't remember.
So Zozo is like the sister town of Jidor, which is the where the opera house is.
Mhm.
And so Jidor is where all the like affluent, well-to-do folk are, and Zozo is where all of the poor criminals live.
Oh,
And it is always raining in Zozo, always. And it is the only town in the game, the only like fully populated town in the game where there are random encounters. Like there is no peace in this town. There are only monsters that are when you get there, it's one of the first like kind of level gates where it's like, no, you should grind. You need to grind for this. And it is so hard to make your way up to the top of this tower, and everyone in the town is lying to you. Like, it's one of the first things that they say is like, oh, by the way, everyone here is a criminal. Everyone will lie to you. So like,
Oh God.
everyone in the town, there's a clock in the town that you need to set to a certain time, and then you get the chainsaw item, which is a really powerful ability for Edgar. But like, people in the town will tell you what time the clock needs to be set at, but they all lie to you. And so it's this like huge betrayal of like, you're trying to solve puzzles and like you're talking to people in town and none of them are saying anything that's helpful to you. And then like you walk into a room and there are enemies there and they fight you. And even when you get your way all the way up to the top of the tower, because you go there chasing after Terra, who is just transformed into a half Esper creature, and like, screamed across the sky and landed at the top of this tower. And like, you get up there, and that's when they reveal like this whole darkness about the world, that like there are these magical creatures and there was a war between the magical creatures and the real people. And like, the game gets so heavy and real in Zozo, in this horrible, dark, crime-ridden town where it always rains.
That's so sad.
It is.
It's very sad and so spooky. And the music is this relentless. And I also think this is the only part of the game where it plays. But it's got a little bit of that like Funhouse sort of like, it's horrifying. It is scary.
That sounds very scary.
Awful, and I feel bad for the people of that town.
I
It
know,
sounds like,
seriously.
I mean, if it rained every day and everyone was lying to me, would I become then a victim of my environment?
Absolutely. Oh,
I mean, you're basically describing Gotham City.
Oh my gosh, Gotham and Metropolis in Final Fantasy.
But they have no Batman. Is the problem?
Yeah, it's just Arkham Asylum, just
That's right.
open and unleashed.
Okay, well, my next one is kind of like fun, spooky level because it's from Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle,
Oh
Yes.
yes.
and
Oh, my
it
goodness, yes.
is I'm blanking on the name right now because I'm trying to find. Oh, wait, yeah, Spooky Trails.
Is that
That's
just
what it's
the
called.
whole-
That's like the whole world
Yeah.
that you go into. It's like Spooky Trails because I really like Halloween as well, but I like the Disneyland version of Halloween.
Oh, same
and
here.
not like the Halloween Horror Nights at
Oh.
like Universal Studios.
Same here. Like, give me purple, give me greens, give
Right.
me cute little pumpkins.
Give me Mickey Mouse dressed as a vampire.
That's
Like
right.
that's the kind of spooky I want, and that's the kind of spooky I get in Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle Spooky Trails. Like even the music, like you're going through the town and it's very, like exaggerated, broken down houses with very cartoony spider webs. There's
Yeah.
big vines that are playing the harp like in time with the music. Like it is the type of spooky that I want to have around Halloween. To me, that's very like comfortable.
Mhm.
The music is great in that game entirely, but this is especially is very like Danny Elfman, kind of
Yeah.
Batman-y, kind of Nightmare Before Christmas.
I am so upset right now because I got to the desert ice level, and that was the last level. I think I started playing a different game. And now that I know that there's a spooky level, I have to go back and
I think
replay
it's-
Mario vs. Rabbids.
I think it's the third one, right? Like, I think it's right after the
Yeah, it's
desert ice.
Gosh darn it!
Yeah.
No!
I think so, and like it has like booze from the Mario game. Just like that game in general is really fun,
Mhm.
really well designed and really well made. And this was my favorite part of that entire game.
Yeah, that's a good pick.
Mm-hmm. All right, so this next one is something that happens to you if you're a bad little gamer.
Oh,
Because
no.
Animal Crossing got super mad at you if you didn't save, or all of a sudden your power goes out in your house when you're a child, and suddenly you load your Animal Crossing town back up, and you have no money, and you have the creepy gyroid face.
Gyroid face. What is this? What happens? What
Oh
is this?
my goodness. Have you ever seen this? So
Uh-uh.
basically, Rossetti was there to tell you, hey, you got to save your game. Don't ever exit the game without saving. So this would happen if you got on the train to go to another friend's town
Mm,
and your game shut off, or the power went out, or you just turned off your GameCube.
right.
So the game would take away all your money, and then you would get cursed with this face the next time you turned on your game. Your little Animal Crossing human had just like these holes for eyes and just this circle mouth.
And just the abyss looks back.
Yes, and as once again, Nintendo as a child punishing me for I will tell you anything. Animal Crossing really just nails in capitalism and remembering to save your game.
Which is so funny. Like Animal Crossing is such a
It's
not
supposed to be safe.
And it's like I'm in so much debt and now I'm a mayor and I have so much responsibility. Yay! Hello, my animal friends.
and
But
now
yeah.
now you're like the victim of a Dementor.
Exactly.
Yes.
So this actually happened to me. Like I said, I was going on the train and my power went out in my house, and so it shut all the electronics off, and I loaded my game back up. I think a few days later, and once you kind of once you kind of get through it a little bit and you turn off the game and you restart it, you're brought back to your same character. It's not a permanent thing.
Okay, well that's good at least. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. That's the kind of thing that would make me turn off the game again and say, like, try to forget that it happened. Right? I'd be like, no more.
Mm-mm.
Oh, that's a scary face. I've got a scary face that I'd like to discuss.
Yes.
Did either of you play much of Yoshi's Crafted World?
Ooh, I have this on my list. I did not play a lot of this game, but I did play this level.
So there's a level called Be Afraid of the Dark, which is it's in a like spooky themed like overall world, but this is one individual level where you go into it and it is dark, and like not totally dark, like you can see what's going on, but like it's darker than usual, and then there's like one light just a little bit of the way into it, and you're like, okay, great, I go into the light, and there's one of those little boxes that you hit from the bottom, and it tells you some useful hint about like here's the cute thing that happens in this level. But when you hit this one, the text just reads, "If he sees you, run away."
Oh my gosh. Hello, cute Yoshi yarn
Yeah.
child.
And it's not like the words are just like up there on the screen like they normally are. There's like a line break between each one, and every other line is justified differently. So it's like if is over here, and then your eyes move a couple inches to the right, and then he, and then like back to the left, sees, and then over here you, and then run away, ... So you're like, okay, what is this game warning me against, right? So you play a little bit more, right? Like you move a little bit further into the level, and it's not immediately clear to you who the he is or what the he is, until you see a clown doll holding a giant axe.
What?
You're correct to react this way. He is a terrifying clown doll who, if he sees you, will start swinging the axe. And Emily, take a guess at what stops him.
Nothing.
Nothing stops him.
Nothing. He will cut through the yarn like you are nothing.
It is a nightmare. He won't go into the light, so if you get to like another pool of light,
Good.
you're okay.
Awesome.
But by the end of the level, there are like 5 or 6 of them chasing you, and like
Wait, there's more?
there are many
I
of
thought
them.
there was only one. No.
It is, and Yoshi is so much about like just existing in the world and like taking your time to really explore the space. And this this level is like, I refuse to let you play the game you've
The
been
thing
playing
I
the way you've been
love
playing it.
about it is that it is just a one level. Just like nothing else in the game up to that point prepares you for something like that.
Yes.
And nothing afterwards repeats it.
No, not even close. And you never see that clown dude again, except for in this level.
It's one of those things where I just want to know the game dev who like sat there and was like, no, we need this level in this game, and I want to do it.
Yeah, the guy who was like, so I've got a pitch.
He's like the Ringo of the group.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a real fun game, but what if we just did a little something something?
They're like, all right, fine, whatever.
You get your own level.
We'll all sing on it. Okay. My next one isn't necessarily like a level, but more of a I guess like it's not even the character or whatever. I'll just get into it.
Yeah.
It's from the Ocarina of Time.
Oh,
It's the Redead in Hyrule Castletown, the
Yes.
first time that you go into like your full-grown Link.
Yes.
And I guess you see them elsewhere in the game, but in Castletown,
Because they've replaced the people.
they've
Yeah.
replaced the people. You're just like walking around, and if you get close to one of them or they catch sight of you, they make a horrible, like, piercing scream,
Yeah.
and then they just start like sauntering towards you.
And
They're
you're
very
frozen
Yeah,
by the scream.
they're horrifying.
It's not just the saunter either, because when they saunter close enough to you, they like jump
They can
on
like
top
grab
of you, right?
Yeah.
And then they just kind of like writhe around on your body, and you just lose hearts, and you're like, why am I losing hearts? Those things are too scary, Mark.
They are very surprising the first time you're playing that game.
Yeah.
There's so many frightening things. Like people say Majora's Mask is like one of the scariest
Mhm.
Zeldas. There's so many frightening things in Ocarina of Time.
It's true. Oh,
That and the
man.
spiders.
The spiders are really scary.
And the first time too, yeah, when you're going out in the fields and the
Oh, yeah,
and
it
the
becomes
bones,
nighttime.
yeah, and it becomes nighttime for the first time, and you're like,
yes.
you're like, oh, I'm never
I
doing
know,
this
you
again.
take all of that kind of stuff. Even you're right, like what are they called? Like the skeletas, like the spider type things.
Yeah, the
They're-
skulktas.
Yeah, there's like so many things that now we just take for granted as being
Mhm.
part of Zelda, but when you're experiencing those for the first time, especially it was the first time in like 3D that
Yeah.
you saw anything like that, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Oh man, Re-Dead. That's the name of those things.
I think so.
Whoa. Whoa, Mark. There is some point where you encounter them as young Link. And I feel like it's in some like tomb area, or like you're underground and there's like some like waterways.
Uh-huh.
And like, you know, it's you have just gotten out of the forest, so like you've got a slingshot and like your dumb little sword, and that's like, it's one of those where you're like, I am not equipped to fight anything, and here's this horrible undead monster that's just going to suck out my blood, or I don't know what. Yeah, that's a good pick, Mark.
And I like how they're never really like explained what they are or why they're there in the future or anything.
Yeah.
I guess they're just brought on from like Ganon's power.
Well, here's the question. Are they the reanimated corpses of the people who lived in the town?
Oh no!
Did they
that's
replace,
so
or yeah, or
sad.
did they? Yeah, is it them, or were they replaced by these beings?
Right?
Sure. It's a little Re-Dead gentrification.
Spooky. Oh gosh.
If that were true, I wish that there was a little dog one that would be like
oh,
running around.
yeah. Or that they were like, so there was at least one friendly one that was like a vendor or something, like
Yeah.
still selling in the afterlife.
That's a good bit. All right, Emily.
All right, so similarly, this is a character, and for me, this was a character. I think because masks are very, very scary because they disfigure the face, they hide the face, and so anything that's like a character disfigured is very, very eerie because you're used to it. First console I ever owned was the GameCube, and the first game I ever played was Super Mario Sunshine. So of course, Shadow Mario was actually really terrifying to me because just the way he would stand there, just like motionless, facing Mario, it was horror level like material. I would much prefer Baby Bowser running around like full
Yes.
face, but Shadow Mario was scary because it just didn't have any. He didn't have any features. He just was like this amorphous outline of Mario that would just
Yeah.
stand there and then run away from you, and it was like, I gotta get this guy, but I want to. Ugh.
That's got a little bit the same energy as Gooigi, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like-
Luigi's like the fun coffee gummy version of that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gu-
he's
Guigi's
like
definitely-
Guigi's like, you control Guigi. This is
Right.
like, here's a shadow version
Yeah,
of
I feel
yourself
like-
that somebody else is controlling
I
and
feel like it's
committing
very
crimes.
very like Shadow Link,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
Like he has the same sort
Yeah.
of like inky blank expression, or like no expression at all. It's just like nothingness. But
I think it's especially scary for Mario though, like versus Link, because I think we're used to seeing Link as sort of like a blank slate, whereas Mario is joy, right? Mario is joy incarnate. He loves to run. He loves to jump, right? He loves these things. But Shadow Mario,
Has a nasty paintbrush, committing crimes, stealing princesses.
he knows no love.
Oh yeah, only to run.
Oh, that one's too scary. But I like it. My next pick is the graveyard from Star Tropics. Now, we've talked about Star Tropics on this show probably too much.
everybody take a drink.
Yeah, take a drink. Take a drink. It's a Star Tropics reference. So I pulled out the NES Classic Edition today to double check and make sure that this is still a super spooky part of this game. And Star Tropics is kind of known for being a little obtuse, right? Like without knowing how to get through all of the dungeons and levels, like it's not a super intuitive game, right? But I would argue that starts in the graveyard, which is on the third island, the third chapter of the game. So you go to this graveyard and you are looking for a crystal ball because the fortune teller has lost it, right? So that's your only guidance. And you're walking around this graveyard, and there is one blue tombstone that like looks slightly different from the rest of them. And you walk into it, and bam, you're in like a dungeon. And this is a dungeon that has so many false exits and so many like hyper hidden things where you're like, you need to go into every room and use the like ghost reveal item, which is, like you can use it up. So like if you use it all up and you can't expose the ghosts, then you can't kill the ghosts and you can't get out of the room. So it's like a series of frustrating dead ends. And it's where Star Tropics is like, no, I'm going to be the worst version of myself. Like I'm not going to argue that it is a good level in the game, but it is so assertively itself that I have to mention it here. And there's a giant ghost at the end that you have to throw things at until it goes away. It's too scary and it's too hard.
And that's an unfair combination.
Yeah. If you're gonna be scary, like be easy.
Please.
I mean, speaking of which, my next pick, which another entry in scarytoeveryone.com
Yes.
is Bonneton, the Cap Kingdom from Super Mario Odyssey.
Sure.
What is with the Cap Kingdom?
And why?
What is with the Cap? Like, what's about the Cap Kingdom?
Yeah, and it starts you there too.
Right. So, like the opening of the game, there's like the whole narrative part of it. But then the first kingdom you go to is this desaturated, black and white, very foggy, has a real Danny Elfman vibes going on in the music. And you're like, what? It's such a weird entry point to that game for me. Because I'm like, why do the people of Bonneton want to live here? They're top hats. There's nothing inherently spooky about top hats.
Except they're top hats, but don't they have like ghosts under them? Or
yeah, they're like.
Are they ghosts, or is that just like?
I think they're. It's so tricky because are they spirits that now possess headwear? And that is like because we see the eyes, but they do have these kind of ghostly tails to them,
right?
Or are they just magically enchanted headwear with souls that simply live?
I mean, they certainly have souls.
And
I
guess does Cappy's soul go into Mario once he is worn, or does it just go into the cover of the hat?
I mean the weirdest part about that is like, does his soul somehow borrow Mario's soul and put it inside of a Goomba, like when they take it over?
Oh gosh, yeah, that's
right.
Is it 2 souls, 1 Goomba?
There we go. 2 souls, 1 Goomba.
I mean, when you really think about it, like, because Cappy, I don't know that because hats exist independent, right? So
also, I just want you to know, we can go down this rabbit hole, but we are about to uncover some existential horrors that I don't know that we're prepared to discuss.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that I think we're down this path, Patrick. Right. I think we have to forge forward as pioneers. But
and you have my axe.
Because hats exist. So so I'm not sure that these are.
Fact.
I don't know that these are spirits inhabiting hats, or if they are like a race or creature that is what we think of as hats. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like they are headwear that has been possessed by a soul. I think they are just a creature that is
a hat.
That has the power of. That's like maybe they're a cousin of the Boo. Maybe they're like an evolutionary cousin of the Boo.
Yes,
because they're kind of in the ghosty family.
But
like their skill is possession. Like you said, there's other creatures in other worlds that have other abilities. So just these people here, these ghosties, these Cappies, their power is possession.
Right, exactly. Like they evolve. At some point, Boos and Caps, they like split off from the same ancestors, went to different islands.
Right. There was an early one that put on a headband.
Exactly. And like the Boos, right? For whatever reason, environmentally, they evolved so that way. If
to be
you're
embarrassed.
Yes, exactly. If you're looking at them, they are shamed. Maybe they do improv on their
Oh
island.
gosh. Oh, it's too real.
And then the caps, right?
Mhm.
And then in their evolutionary, they found the need to like be able to possess things, and they obviously have much more like mobility because they can do all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, yes, Bonneton is very scary, and the idea of these cap creatures is even
The
scarier.
implications
Yeah.
are horrifying.
If you start thinking about how these creatures exist, why they have not been introduced to Mario and Bowser for so long if they possess this level of power.
This is a great question, especially because there are so many hats in the Mushroom Kingdom. I mean, notably Mario's and the princess's tiara. Like, and we see them as cap creatures in Odyssey, but never before.
Right.
So, okay,
Yeah.
also question.
Mhm.
Is Cappy's sister, the tiara, controlling Peach for Bowser because the tiara is so terrified of
Oh.
Bowser? Like, or is it just we need a tiara to make Peach a princess?
Oh boy.
I guess all those bridal items are just bridal items. They're not necessarily
Yeah.
like there was a Sabrina PC video game where in order to trap her evil cousin, you
Uh-huh.
had to find like the shoes of binding, the tattletale mouth like sucker.
Yeah.
So it was like all these evil toys that you would use on your evil sibling to get her to not cast any more spells, and then it was like the shoes would keep her in place so she
Yeah.
couldn't run away. So, but I don't think
No, because Bowser and the Brutals are mostly like they're trying to throw a good wedding,
Right.
right?
And like the tiara seems like she also a victim.
yes,
yes,
yeah.
terrified to cannot leave.
Yeah.
Terrified.
The eldritch horror of Cappy. Also, what if the Cars from the Cars movies exist in this universe? There are just so many
Oh.
questions.
Mark, no, Emily, save us.
There's so many questions about the Cars universe. Like there's so many things that don't make sense. How do planes exist? How do cars get carried in planes if planes are also beings as well?
Who makes the tires?
Yeah, that's a better question.
Are they like shoes or are they like feet? I don't get it. Emily, save us. What's
Yes,
your next?
Next is the bad ending with Brunhilde from Banjo Kazooie.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when Tootie and when Brunhilde takes Tootie's beauty away from her and turns her into some kind of terrifying Brunhilde monster, and then Brunhilde gets very, very sexy.
She gets uncomfortably sexy.
Yes. Like the most realistic person in this game. Like it's very cartoony. A big cute bear, a little bird, a bunch of fun creatures, a garbage shark, and then you have
Yes.
who's also kind of terrifying. And then all of a sudden this. Also, your sister becomes this monster, and then a sexy woman appears.
Yes, and then like gothic Jessica Rabbit walks out.
Basically,
Yeah.
and it's like. And her voice goes like, rah, 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 rah. It goes like, ooh, oh, no. And you're like, oh, bad ending. But you feel so bad for Tootie, and just poor Tootie, like,
Is the implication that like she took Tootie's cuteness?
Yeah,
they,
she,
like,
she
trade-
steals her beauty with the
she steals her
machine.
beauty with a machine because you failed.
Yes.
It isn't. That's the thing that's really scary is with Banjo Kazooie. It isn't like, oh, your character's punished or you die for not succeeding. It's
Yes.
like you affect the lives of
Ooh,
others around
yeah.
you, and your sister now takes the brunt of your failures.
Yeah, it's a game that forces you to confront the weight of your decisions and your failures as they affect the lives of everyone
That must
around
have been
you.
why we played it in ethics in college.
Yes, it was until dawn before until dawn.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I the fact that it is like the fail state. Man, what is it with games that would like punish you with that sort of like, here's what it looks like when you mess up, you know? Like, here are the consequences. I was just playing through The Last of Us.
Yeah. Oh
and-
gosh.
Yeah, and there's always like a moment when you mess it up where the clicker is just like, tearing into your flesh, and the game is so good about giving you like a second of it and then being like, nope, go back and like try it again. But like every time I see that, I have like it plays out in my head of like everything else bad that would happen, and I'm so grateful the game doesn't show me that. My next scary area. the Forest Temple from the Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time showed up
Gosh,
twice.
Oh yeah, I mean, I almost threw Ocarina of Time in there too, but I mean, we guess we could have made this a trifecta, a
It's true.
triforce.
We could have just talked about scary things in Ocarina of Time. But the Forest Temple is, first of all, it's again part of that same part of the game that you were talking about, Mark, where like you are new to the world of the future. Link is an adult, and everything has just been demolished, right? So it's a bad world that you find yourself in, and you fight your way back through your poor abandoned town, only to get to a temple that was once a safe place and is now just overrun with like ghosts and stuff. And this is also where you fight the Phantom Ganon, which is one of the coolest bosses in Ocarina of Time. And I love all of the like cool like ghosty puzzles where you have to like shoot all of the portraits with a bow and arrow, and those hallways that like twist, and then like you hit the thing and they like untwist. Man, it's so cool.
All right. My last level is also a Zelda one. Wait,
Okay.
is that right? Am I on the last one?
Yeah.
Do we all have one
Yeah,
left?
yes,
Get
that's
one
right.
Okay,
left.
great.
Yeah.
Is also a Zelda thing, and it's from Breath of the Wild. And it is the labyrinths. The first labyrinth that I encountered was the one that's like in the upper right of the map, like
The one on the
Akala or
island?
whatever. Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's like it's the first one I went to. It's really rainy there,
Yes.
and you fly into it, and it's just this huge maze. I hadn't gotten the ability where you can like jump really high yet.
Yeah.
So you're
Rivali's Gale.
yeah. So once you get Rivali's Gale, the labyrinths aren't as difficult because you can just like Rivali's Gale to the top and kind
Yeah.
of like go to the areas you want. But at first you're like going through, and there's all these guardians around,
Yeah.
and you're trying to make it to like the very center part and figure out how you can scale to the top without getting shot down. And if you're not like far enough in the game, you don't have like all of the power ups, and you still don't have a lot of stamina. Like everything in that game can kill you pretty easily.
Yeah.
And so once you find your way in, you get to the top, and if you want to get a like specific item, you drop down, and it's into this like
Oh, God.
guardian
Oh,
like
the abyss.
yeah, like this like guardian like they're not dead, but it seems like a graveyard, and there's
Yeah.
just all these guardians like
And it's
scattered around.
it's the biggest like interior space you've seen to this point.
And you don't
It's
really
cavernous.
Yeah, you can't really
Huge.
see like all the guardians that are around. And
Yeah.
so you just know that you have to like you're like, okay, I've got to like get in here, get this item. So you're just like scrambling. And then all the guardians start like attacking you, and they start like coming
Turning
to life and
on
everything.
just around you, and you
Yeah.
hear
Yeah.
that horrible noise of like at least 10 of them.
Yeah. Oh, that
God.
part is so like it's just one of like the discovery things that make that game so amazing.
Yes.
Where you're just like, I can't believe I stumbled on this, and like this is so weird. There's just these giant like labyrinths, and they're so scary and so big, and it's like the atmosphere of that one specifically, where it's like really stormy and rainy. Oh, I love that part of that game so much.
I almost wish there was lore for it. Like I wish there was some kind of Hylian
No one knows.
Hylian tome where it would talk about like, oh yeah, if you go to the labyrinth, like beware essentially the graveyard of the
Yeah.
guardians, or it gave you some context as to like
Yeah,
these were
like,
all the
why is that
abandoned ones,
there?
or these are the
Yeah.
ones that they retired or they buried for because they would serve their purpose or something. Like why are they down there?
Or
I
maybe
wanna
they
know.
were the guardians that they could never control in the first place.
Ooh, and they just stick
And
them all
then
in
it's
this
like,
pit.
we don't know what to do. Just like
Just
throw them
dump
down
'em
there.
in there.
I don't know. Put a maze on top.
Yeah,
of
they're
it.
like the
People
broken
hate
ones.
mazes. They
He's
won't
like,
wanna
right,
solve
yeah,
it.
exactly. They're too spooky. I mean, it's not one of the labyrinths, but there's also another part in where it's like sunken down. There's like a temple, right? It's like an abandoned temple, and it's another one where like to make your way through, there's all these guardians that you have to.
Oh yes.
Mhm.
I can't remember. I don't even know if it has a name or if people are just speculating that it was like, oh, the remains of something that we've seen in another game. Or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, like in that like it's like in the canyon, like sort of on the west side of the map. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just so many parts of that game. Oh man, I'm so excited for the sequel to Breath of the Wild. It's like, what else do you have to
Ooh.
show us?
Yeah. I mean, I'm also like I am looking forward to the day where I've forgotten enough about Breath of the Wild that I can like go back into it and be like re-wowed by it. Cuz like just talking about that labyrinth like I'm so excited right now. Like it's
and
so good.
I mean, thinking about the sequel, you know, the preview trailer that they showed. We just saw a tiny snippet.
Oh my god!
But that was like spooky
Yeah.
stuff, and so I'm really excited to see where they go with this. And yes, I completely agree with you that like forgetting about Breath of the Wild and then replaying it will be fun, but experiencing something completely new,
Yeah,
I'm just like
totally.
really looking.
I'm
forward
really
to.
curious, to see what they add, what they keep from the original game, and how they expand it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whew. Emily?
All right, so on a totally different note, this is a game. This is a game that if you really play it and if you really look into it, it's quite nightmarish. It's Tomodachi Life for the Nintendo DS. Okay.
Very good. Very good.
So
State your case.
yes, so you can create these mean monstrosities like with any kind of facial design, and it's the way they talk too. Like I think with the Sims it's charming because the Sims is Simlish. It's like shabadoo, we la di da, and it's like the Sims, you're so bright and colorful. And this one is like Mies who like turn around and stare at you and are like, I want to change my hat today. And it's just like these monotone voices.
Oh, no.
Or it's like, I want to go play a prank on this other person in the apartment building. Will you let me go play a prank? And it's Nintendo trying to do random, but in a frightening, like too random, this is almost like maniacal kind of way. Like it's terrifying how they interact with each other.
Because what is the gameplay of Tamagotchi Life?
So Tomodachi Life was essentially Mii's meet the Sims. So you would create these Mii's, these Tamagotchis that would live in this apartment, and you could decorate the apartment, you could go buy new clothes, and you could do games with them to get them food and have them go on the news station or go to the beach and all these crazy things. And then they would start becoming friends and interacting with each other on their own. And they would have you do tasks, be like, I think there's something on my face. Can you look at it? And all of a sudden your screen would do a really tight close up and it would be like a caterpillar on their face. And you as the player, like, there's a caterpillar on your face. And your Mii is like, can you please remove it? And you're like, okay. It's just the level of random that is unhingingly terrifying.
Yeah.
Especially like then they can have babies, and Mii babies are like terrifying. Like their eyes and their mouths are like on the bottom half of their face because they haven't grown into them yet.
That's so like the idea, because most of it seems so like mundane, right? That like they just want to live in their apartment and like play a prank on their friend.
It's supposed to be comedic, but it's like the level of random and comedy
Yeah.
that's written in there is like psychopathic.
Also, like, how do you not know there's a caterpillar on your face?
This is what I'm saying is that like it's a normal thing, and then it's like a really not normal thing because like you'd know there's a caterpillar on your face and you'd do something about it.
And then sometimes, like, if they're sleeping, you can go and you can see, like, if they have, like, a little dream bubble in their apartment, it's like, oh, I want to go see what Emily's dreaming about. And all of a sudden, it's just your Mii's face, like, on a real fish body, just, like, swimming around in a real ocean. And
So
you're
they have dreams like we do.
yeah,
Like,
so, like, really, yeah. And you're just like, oh, it's, like I said, Sims very charming, Animal Crossing adorable, yet with surprisingly real life world consequences. Tomodachi Life is like, what? Just so many questions if you go back and replay that game.
Is that the one where you can like hold a concert and like write lyrics?
Yes, and you can
stuff
write
for
the
your
lyrics, and people
yeah.
did all the very, very silly songs, like and they made all the Mii's from like Seinfeld singing very, very silly songs. I think there was like Reggie even put himself, like he releases Mii because you could also scan QR codes on your 3DS from like an online source. So I think Reggie put up his QR code so everyone could have Reggie like in their game.
Gotta have Reggie in your
so
game.
it just the possibilities were endless. People built like John Cena, and so you could it was like Sims in that I'm gonna make all these famous people I'm friends with, but then they would do real weird. It wasn't like Sims simulated life. It was like, oh gosh, John Cena and wants to have a prank battle with Reggie Fils-Aimé. Like,
Yeah, that's so because like one of the things I really liked about like Wii and 3DS was that like it would sometimes some games would just like populate the backgrounds. Like Mario Kart was really good at this, where like just like your Mii's are in the crowd, and like I had my Wii like right after college, so like this is when I had like a lot of like friends hanging out all the time, and so just like a lot of Mii's, and it felt it felt like very real and like normal to just like see them in the backgrounds of games all the time. But like if they're weird drone versions of my friends acting independently
and they
like
speak in a monotone robotic voice. If they speak like da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da, we're like, it's not the Animal Crossing like it's like Hello, I really want some food today. Can you please go get me a banana and change my hat?
Yeah, that's I don't.
It's like your friends have become pod people.
Yes, and that might happen.
Yeah.
That's a good one. My last spooky place is the Spencer Mansion from Resident Evil. There is a garden out back, and in this garden, there is a cabin, a shack that is. There is a woman who lives in it who is named Lisa Trevor, and she is the terrifying experiment gone way wrong that is haunting like the entire grounds of the Spencer Mansion. She's this creature that when you encounter her, she's got this like weird flesh, like droopy flesh mask covering the front of her face, and her arms are in like wooden shackles, and she like drags her like knuckles across the floor as she like ambles towards you, and nothing you can do does anything to her. You can shoot her, you can throw grenades at her, whatever. She's horrifying. And the whole like backstory behind this character, which gets slowly doled out to you as you're playing the game, is that her father designed all of the like puzzles and traps in the mansion, and then Spencer, whatever the evil guy's first name, like had the guy killed and had his wife and daughter like experimented on and imprisoned, and then the wife dies, and so now it's just this little girl who has now grown up as like a zombie forever and spends all of her time looking for her parents. And the Spencers were like, oh, we better send in some people dressed as her parents, and maybe that'll trick her. And like, of course it doesn't, and she just kills them and rips off their faces and says, "Where's my mother?" And then wears her fake parents' faces on her face because her face is deteriorating away. Anyway, you encounter this cabin where she's been staying all by herself, and there are like toys, because like she was a little girl when all this started happening, so like she's still got some of that like is kind of a monster child. It is the saddest part. This is all from the remake, the first on GameCube. And it's just like the saddest, like kind of realist, scary part of Resident Evil. And it's just this sad little shack that like she lives in and like regresses forever, and is just this terrible monster.
Woof.
Yeah.
That is a
Resident
real
Evil.
spooky one to go out on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, everyone. Yeah, I'm sorry if that's too heavy, but that's just how
No.
I roll.
No, that's a good one.
That is a good one. That is very appropriate.
Emily, thank you so much for
Yeah,
Oh my
you
gosh,
so
thank
much
you
for
guys for
doing
having
this.
me on here. This was a blast.
Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yes. You can listen to me regularly on Hit Points Pod. I do it with Matt Acevedo and Naeem Stewart, and that is a silly video game podcast where we just kind of talk about video game news and what games we're playing and just have a good old time. And that's at Hit Points Pod on Twitter, and that's Hit Points Podcast. And then I'm also in a Mass Effect RPG podcast.
Ooh.
That's really, really cool. And it's called Mass Effect Adventum. We were number 4 in the United States for sci-fi for about a month, which
Whoa,
is really,
Whoa,
really
that's
cool.
awesome.
So yeah, if you really like Mass Effect, if you really like RPG podcasts, definitely give that one a listen. It's a really good time.
Yeah, great. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Okay, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. And, feel free to share this episode because you liked it. You had a good time. You made it all the way to the end.
Yeah, and maybe there were spooky levels that you were expecting to hear, but we didn't mention.
That is possible. We only did like 15. We did a lot of spooky levels. But if you want to share those with us, you can email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com, or you can tweet at us at NinCartSociety, or at Mark and I separately. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, or you can go to the Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. And that's it. That's our show. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Eller saying, if he sees you, run away. Thanks for listening.
Hiya, I'm Hallie Labont from Mega the Podcast. I'm a weekend producer at Twin Hills, a fictional mega church in Broad Ripple, Indiana.
And I'm Gray Haas. I'm the youth pastor of our church's teen ministry called Climax.
On every episode of Mega the Podcast, we improvise with a new guest comedian playing a different character from our community.
Tune in and hear episodes with guests like Cecily Strong.
How would you me off or whatever? Sorry, am I allowed to say that? I don't know.
You know what? It's covered in the blood. Rory Scovel.
I said, hey, we could build houses or we could build our faith in Christ out on a golf course.
Eliza Coop.
The way I plow the snow
Yeah.
is I'm not doing it by any other guidance except from God.
And Scott Adsit.
Physics is the proof of God.
Wow.
Because it's perfect.
Oh. Well.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
We couldn't think of physics.
Right.
Only he could think of physics.
Isn't that right?
We're on Campfire Media.
Listen to Mega wherever you find podcasts.